you doing? I'm just checking my hair. Not that I can do about
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of the GZ Chop Shop. And today I am joined by a legend. This gentleman has graced our screens for years with his performances in movies, television, and video games, with iconic roles such as Attila the Hun in Night of the Museum and Khotun in the award-winning game Ghost of Tsushima. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Patrick Gallagher. Welcome.
How you doing?
To the podcast.
I'm waiting for whoever this legend is you're talking about.
You are a legend to us for sure.
I gotta ask just right off the bat for Khotun Khan.
I'm having a hard time
speaking. I was going back and
because you're waiting for the legend to come, right?
Yeah, I'm waiting for the legend. I was going back and rewatching like the scenes from the game, and just being at least a little familiar with some of your like past characters that you've played in film, and a couple. And I think you were were you Mad Schultz and Tom Clancy?
Yeah.
How did it feel transitioning from those roles to being this evil menace?
It was fun. It's like any other acting job. I think the thing that makes it easier is how much time it takes. We started Ghost in March of 2017.
Oh,
and then
wow.
I would do something, and then I would come back 4 months later or 6 months later. It takes a long time to do a game. Yeah, I think my first performance capture was March of 2017. The game came out in 2020, and over the course of 3 years, I came back 4 or 5 times with big gaps in between. It's like any other job; you just shift from one to the other. I thought I looked cooler as Mad Schultz, though. I like the look.
You did. You had like a grit to you.
Yeah. He could pull out a cowboy hat. I can't.
I was cracking up watching the opening scene because obviously when we think of you, easily to mind we think of Attila the Hun and that kind of comedic role you were in, and then there you are playing Khan. You throw fire on a guy and catch him on fire with no facial expression, and then walk away. And I'm like,
that was a complete accident. I was trying to throw.
And I'm like, this is like the total change between those two characters. It was just really funny to me rewatching the scene.
Oh, thank you.
Thinking about like that.
I did think a little bit about how different it works. Attila was so comedic, but and I didn't use it much because it wasn't related. The one thing I did use it for was that Attila costume was about 40 pounds. And when you do performance capture, you're basically wearing a skin tight suit, which weighs nothing. And so the way I used Attila for Khotun was to remember what it felt like to have that kind of weight on, because you need to get the walk. So you're basically wearing, I don't know if you've dived, you're basically wearing a diving suit.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. To me, I was just thinking like you were just bringing this character to life through voice, but you had to actually wear stuff.
Oh yeah, that was our faces. That was us doing it. So that's where I went back to Attila, was to remember what it felt like to wear that costume, so that I could, get the walk of Khotun with all that armor on. So that's that's sort of where I related back to it.
Now, was Ghost of Tsushima your first time doing performance capture?
No, Mad Schultz was performance
Mad
capture
Schultz?
as well. Yeah. So there's, I guess they all know there's motion capture, which is just the movement. There's voice work, which is, just in the studio, then they animate it. And then performance capture combines both of them. So luckily with Mad Schultz, I had learned a lot about performance capture because there's a lot of technique to it, just the ways you need to work. You need to imagine everything. Certain things, like when you drink, you've got to drink like that. You can't, naturally as an actor, you would fake it there, but you need to put it there so they can animate it properly because the cameras are in your face. The hardest part about performance capture is you do have these cameras that are out to about here. So when you're doing really intimate scenes, close up, really kind of quiet stuff, that's where it gets a little bit more difficult because you're sort of aware of these things. So a lot of those scenes, especially that first scene I had with what was his uncle's name? My mind is going. Don't get old. In the very first scene, that very first one, that was
Yeah.
a
Oh,
big
for
deal.
Mads Schultz. Oh,
No,
that was a
for
while
Khotun,
ago.
For
Khotun Khan.
Dakota Khan, like when he
Yeah,
first
yeah,
appears.
No, I can't. I don't remember his name. I know the character you're talking
yeah.
about.
So that one, you're trying to get right into his face to sort of say, hey, listen, we're the same, but you've got these cameras sticking out. So, but I like it. It's an interesting experience. It's certainly a skill that you need to learn as an actor because it is different from a lot of the stuff we do.
Do you have a particular character that you loved portraying more than anything else, whether it was
Uh,
film or voice acting?
I mean, I really loved playing Khotun. It was such a great character to play, such a great experience. The writing on that was really wonderful, and it was really collaborative, and I got to sort of create what I wanted to create out of him because I didn't want to play him as just an evil bastard. To me, he was just had a job to do. I really loved playing Attila. I mean, it was a lot of work, those movies, because that was a hot, heavy costume, but that was so much
Yeah.
fun to be part of. There's a couple of other shows I really enjoyed doing, Men of a Certain Age, just because it was such a great set to be on. Joe Pickett was an incredible experience, probably one of the best sets I've ever been on. That was recent on Paramount Plus. I mean, I enjoy all of them. I love working.
Now I know the language of Attila that you pretty much created it.
Yeah,
It's like
pretty much made that up. Yeah, it wasn't
yeah.
written like that. The audition actually was in English, and I think my lines were "Get me, Doom. I love that game" or something like that. And then when we did the callback, they wanted to. Sean Levy said, "Well, I don't know how to explain this. We're thinking that maybe he's not going to speak English. It's going to be some made up language." And I went, "So you want evil, mid-step Asian dictator circa 1250," and I just made it up on the spot. And then as we went along, I wanted to hear what Mongolian sounded like, so I would listen to it. I mean, what's kind of funny is there's a scene that was cut. My first scene I shot was in New York, where he's trying to get his girlfriend out of the apartment, and my line was, "I could burn her out. I could fire an arrow, burn her out." So I found the word for fire, arrow, and burn in Mongolian, and then built everything around that. And I didn't go back again for 2 weeks. And would just kind of make it up. And I realized I used that as sort of the basis of it. And then it just became really natural. The key to that, I think one of the best compliments I got is they screened it and said, nobody actually questioned what you were saying. And the key to that was I was always thinking about what I was trying to say in my head. It didn't work if I didn't have an intention. So when I was saying something, I'd be thinking, but Larry, this is too dangerous. And it would come out that way. And what's interesting, when we did the third one, hadn't done it for a while, it was the first one up, and Sean was so great that when I did my first scene, he said, "I don't understand you." And the words weren't that different. It's just the intention wasn't there.
Mhm.
And the great thing is I'm the only voice that everybody around the world hears, so I'm never dubbed, because you can't dub a made-up language. And there are
Yeah.
swear words sprinkled. There are swear words and interesting words sprinkled throughout it, because I had to have some fun.
It's
So
like
there's a
the ultimate winging of a job.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Krispy Kreme in there. I would ask people where where their grandmother was born from a foreign country, and if I liked the sound of the town, I would throw that in. There's an "fu mother effer" in there. I'm not going to tell you. There's
You're
one
really
word.
just throwing darts like this sounds great, and
Oh
everyone's like,
yeah,
yeah.
I know that early on, Guillermo, who was our director of photography, asked me, "Are you making it up?" I said, "Yeah," and I joked. I said, "I'm swearing," and I joked and I said, "I'm swearing." He goes, "I'll bet you can't say the puta madre." I said, I'll throw it in, not even in rehearsal. I'll throw it in the cut, and when we're filming, you won't even hear it because you can cut.
It's funny because
You just got to go. Oh, sto go da puta madre puta sa.
it's
I
funny
know.
because that's something I would definitely do and get
Yeah.
away with.
Yeah, I'll tell you the hard thing about that was a lot of times you have to do what's called ADR. You have to loop it afterwards because the sound's not great. And that's hard to loop because I was just making it up as I go along. I mean, we would find key phrases that we liked, like Punala was pull. I would kind of experiment with it, in collaboration with Sean and make sure that those words were matching the scene. But when you had to loop it afterwards in the studio, match your mouth movement, that's really, really hard because it wasn't really words. So, but yeah, there's swear word. There's one clear as day. My mother's Chinese and Indonesian. So there's one clear as day word that I put out as an homage to my mother's heritage, which is Jabak Larry in the first one. Jabak means wipe your bum. And then when my aunts and uncles saw it, they're like, "What the hell did you just say?" I said, "Only Indonesians will know. It'll be fine." So, so that's the one homage to my Jabak.
Indonesians around the world playing this game, a little confused.
Why is he gonna? Why do they want them to wipe Dick Van Dyke's bum? I don't get it.
They just kind of glaze over it. That's
Yeah,
funny.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out, like, when you're standing across from Ben Stiller now, you both had, like, in my opinion, equal comedic presence in that movie. What was it like behind the scenes when you two were just delivering these lines? Because Ben, he was really just making up sounds. When you pay attention, he's just making up sounds, and you're like meshing together different languages and everything.
Yeah,
And you guys are delivering this to each other.
it was a pretty incredible experience. I mean, he's such a generous actor, and he's so great at the comedy stuff. I learned a lot from him. I just sort of sat back and went with it and watched him work. And he was, when it comes down to action, it's just actor to actor. But a lot of what we did was just improv on the go. I mean, that magic scene, all they said is you're going to do magic with Larry. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I was really nervous when that was a long time ago, and I was with all these really heavy hitters doing this part that I didn't really know what I was doing. And Robin Williams was incredible to be around. He actually really helped a lot, because early on I was nervous. I think he could tell. And in hindsight, I know he did this on purpose, but early on, I think second or third day, I did something. He just walked by and said, "That was really funny." I think he knew that I was nervous and knew that if I heard Robin Williams say it was funny, I would get confidence. So that's the kind of guy he was. He was fantastic. But yeah, we just kind of went with it, and you just kind of go, and Ben is so good at it. You follow his lead, you take the advice. That scene when we ran together, that was all we had planned, was to run together and go. All that stuff he came up with you know somebody cut a till, all that stuff was him, and I just kind of tried to go with it as best I could. And the crying part, I think my instinct said to do it, and I didn't quite follow through, so he thought it'd be funny, so we actually shot that like 2 months later, where I actually broke down and cried in that first part. But I just remember I was there one day, and it was Ben Stiller, Robin Williams, and Ricky Gervais, and I remember just thinking, just call cut so I can just hear these guys talk to each other, because it was so, I mean, they were so funny and they were so professional. It was a really amazing experience to be around all that. I learned a lot about acting and about how to act in comedy and act in general. So.
And you've been around a lot of heavy hitters, and you've pretty much have been in a plethora of genres. Do you still get nervous even in your veteran years?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. I don't know if nervous is the word. Sometimes it's nervous. I think I get nervous if I don't feel like it. If I get nervous and I know I haven't prepared enough, or I'm not sure that I understand the part, and then you just have to deal with that. But yeah, I get a little bit nervous. I think it's natural. I think you're not really, at least to me, I'm not really prepared, or I'm not really ready to do it. To learn how to handle it a little bit better. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, it's just acting, but there's a lot at stake within the the area that we decided to work in. It's not like a lot at stake for the world, but they're paying good money. Time is really important. You want to go and do a good job. You want to honor the character. You want to honor the story. So you worry about that, and then when you get on set, you just go with your instincts.
Oh, thank God, because I wake up nervous.
Yeah. I mean,
Starts the day nervous.
I think it's part of life. I mean, every once in a while, when when you work with a really, an icon or a really fantastic actor, big star, yeah, sometimes that's when I get the most nervous, thinking, can I match them? And you've got to calm your nerves, because if you're nervous, you're scared, and if you're scared, you can't do this. Because so much of acting is just about being relaxed and open, willing to make mistakes. That's what was so great about Night at the Museum. I would say 30 to 40% of that was improv by everybody. And, Sean Levy was so great with me that I would just throw out ideas. And he had something I think called like the Gallagher method. And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, you'd have 5 terrible ideas, but I know the 6th would be a gem." But that's a really great way to work when you're not afraid of, because not every idea is great, but you can sometimes find the great idea by going through the ideas that aren't that great. And I like to work like that, where you just throw something out. And then you've got to have enough of an ego that you don't worry that it's a terrible idea. You've got to be willing to do stupid stuff, because sometimes it just doesn't work, but something then will lead to something else. You're like, okay, that's a gem. So I like to work like that, but I love working. So, that helps with the nerves. They have free food, so why wouldn't I love
I'm
it?
glad you mentioned the
The
that
free food.
still getting
that's the reason I do it.
The food.
the food.
Yeah.
But it's great that you mentioned that, even you still get nervous. I don't know if a lot of people know this too. Like, Daniel and I, we've been doing this podcast for well over 5 years, and when we try to, have guests on, and even before we start recording the episode, I get those nerves. I'm just like, all right, we got this person who's established in their career, they're doing great things. How do I bring that out? How do I let the world know? How do I do them justice? And it's like, all right, just get through the intro, let the world know how amazing they are, and then just get into it. So like, it's great hearing that, even a veteran like yourself gets nervous, because every time, even when it's just Daniel and I get ready to press record, I'm just like, oh, I'm nervous. So like,
Yeah. And I think you do a great job, and I think it's natural. I think that it means that I think it's indicative of how much it means to us. And I think that helps. We're not going to get nervous about stuff that's not important to us.
Especially when what you do for a living is something that brings you a lot of joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless of the obstacles in front of you.
Absolutely. And then you realize that, in your head, you realize that your nerves are unwarranted, but your body's going to do what it's going to do. But I think it's just preparing you to get to the place. Because they go away. It's like you said, once you hit record, they go away. Once I got upset, it goes away. The nerves are basically driving the work, or when you first show up. If you've got a really big scene or a lot of, some really stuff that's going to take a lot of acting chops, or those are the days you'll feel a little bit nervous, just because you want to do a good job. And you want to prepare.
Now you landed, this iconic character of Khan, and you've actually been in video games since 2006. You've done a lot of voice work. You've loaned your voice in Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yeah.
So guys, keep an ear out.
Yeah, I forgot about Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I played that game.
The new one came out, and Ubisoft has been great for me. I think I have 5 different characters in that. There's a couple of games that, I'm doing the, hey, get down. We're about to move on that. A lot of those kind of stuff, because I went to theater school and can yell for 2 hours without messing my voice up. Well, my first one ever was just the performance capture on The Last of Us in 2007. I've always loved that job because that got me my health care that year. Because I guess the lead of it had a knee problem or something, and I was because I was a little bit bigger back then, so I was his body style. So I would be there as his character, doing all of the moving stuff. So that was my first experience with it. I don't like being in that suit. I don't think anyone should have to see me in that suit. Really not much you can do about it.
Now, Daniel is trying to get himself into voice acting. Yes, I'm totally throwing him under the bus here.
Well, I have a question. How come you get to be host and he gets to be co-host? Do you guys switch that every week, or is there a hierarchy?
Whoever 5 years ago. 5 years ago or so, he reached out to, because we were in the Navy together before all the 15, 20 years ago. And then we reconnected, and he reached out to me to be on the show, just to be on the show one day. And I was like, yeah, sure. And it was my first time ever doing anything like this. Apparently people liked it. So he talked me into doing a couple more episodes. And then somehow he conned me into staying for 5 years.
Which is great. But did he outrank you in the Navy?
No, we were the same rank.
So why is he host and you're only the co-host? Do you guys switch that around? Is it because he came on? Did he start and you came on second? I'm just like,
Oh no, this was originally his show, and he had started the entire thing, and then he asked me to be on one day.
Okay,
and
then that was my Khotun stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, what happened was he and I, we had a duel.
Okay.
And he slipped and fell, and
got it.
It was my victory.
Got it. See, that was like that was a Khotun thing where I try to sow internal strife, and that way you can conquer defeat.
Yeah, you definitely
You did a great job, by the way.
Okay.
But it's for the best because when it comes to anything that's kind of scripted or I guess any form of professionalism with words, he's way better at it than I am.
Right.
I can do things more on the fly and impromptu, but I can't do things like he can, like with introductions and whatnot.
I was just taking the piss. Just don't
sowing the seeds of
sidekick.
chaos and Khotun style.
Yeah, because it says
Yeah.
host and go, so just don't make it host and don't let it go to host and sidekick or something like that.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, better.
Or like which Robin? It
Yeah.
depends.
Sorry, Greg. What was your question?
I love that like intrusive thought he had, and then it won, and then it just took over.
It went in there. I was sitting here thinking, I was like, the seeds of chaos have been sown. After this episode, he's gonna be like, how about I host next week's episode?
No, I'm gonna sit on this for about a week, and then I'm gonna just send you an email. I'm not even gonna text you. I'm just gonna send you a professional email.
Yeah, get ChatGPT to do it.
And then at the bottom, I'll sign it.
Host Daniel.
I'm gonna give you some ideas about me being host.
Oh, man, you know what? Yeah, to send that to my assistant that does not exist.
There you go. Sorry about that. So what was you were asking the question?
Actually, I was gonna say, I know that you were big in arcades back in the day.
Oh yeah, I loved arcades. The old arcades. I mean, I'm significantly older than you guys, but yeah, we would just go to the arcades with rolls of quarters and just go play the game standing up. There's still one open in my hometown of Vancouver. As last I know, I haven't been there since 2022, but it's still open at the corner of Granville and Smythe, Movie Land Arcade. And it's been there since I remember going there in 1984. And nobody knows why it's still open. It's the same twin brothers that own it. And you can still go in there and play the stand-up games. I think they still have. The last I was there, they had a Gallagher. And it's one of the few. That was part of my youth, is going with the quarters, trying to finally win Wizard of War and Donkey Kong standing up. That we would play that.
The same arcade's been there since the 80s.
It's the same arcade. It's called Movie Land Arcade at the corner of Granville. So you can look it up right now and see if it's still open. But last time I was there in 2022, it was still open. So
that is so cool.
Yeah, we don't know whether it's a tax dodge or a tax thing.
A tax dodge.
Well, because Granville Street is a pretty it's a pretty price. Vancouver's a pricey town, and that's a pretty pricey real estate. And that little arcade has just been there since I was in high school. We would start going.
They got grandfathered into the street. Just no taxes for you.
And I think
while everyone else is paying everything.
When I was up there last, it was still open, and people still go in. Every once in a while, whenever I go in, I just go in, throw down a loony or toonie, and
that is astonishing. That's awesome. Good for them, though. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So if you're in Vancouver and you want to play stand-up video games and relive your youth, I think it's still there.
I've never been to like an old arcade like that. I think that'd be pretty cool to visit. We have arcades here, a few of them. I do the arcade. I go maybe once a month.
Nice.
But it's more of a mix of like old school retro arcades and then like the pinball machines and all that. And then it has some of the newer games in there, like Guitar Hero and stuff too. So it's kind of like a mix.
Yeah, and I know some of the restaurants, I don't know which one it is, Dave & Buster's, I think, it's thrown sort of that. So I think they still make the really modern, fancy.
I think arcades are becoming popular again.
Yeah.
With a modern twist on them.
But they're not a quarter anymore.
They're not a quarter anymore. No. I think the one I go to, I think it's like it's all you can play. You can stay as long as you want to play, but I think it's something like $12 or $15 per person.
Yeah, that would have lasted me 9 hours.
Yeah, exactly. You go in with a stack of quarters, you find your game, and you could be there for hours.
And you have enough quarters to get home on the bus and maybe buy an ice cream cone even after 7 hours. Depending on how good you are. I was never great at them. I was always, smashing the keys, hoping that would help. But
I do this thing where I play one for about 5 minutes and lose. And then I go on to the next one. Don't get me started on the original Frogger, by the way. That entire game is a scam.
Well, yeah, and all it is side to side trying to avoid getting getting hit by stuff, but it's still hard.
It's the end. It's the end. Like you make it to the logs, and then you have to get the the insects or whatever, or the other frogs at the little sections, but they keep disappearing and changing.
Yeah.
That's the part I struggle with.
Sorry, something's bouncing on the bottom.
I used to have an arcade, what used to be called Cheltenham Mall in my area here in Philly, and I used to go after school sometimes or on the weekends, and I go in, and I suck at fighting games, but I love fighting games, and that's where I would spend a lot of my time trying to get through like Street Fighter, and then in arcades you could unlock like those secret fighters if you did certain things. And I would play those, or I would play like zombie shooters, like House of the Dead.
Yeah, that's still there. I would play House of the Dead at Movie Land. Yeah,
I loved House of the Dead. I sucked at it, but I just loved those rail shooters so much. Yeah. And then the what they call bullet hells, like 1942.
Yes.
When and you're
is that the one with the airplane?
Yep.
Yeah, you can.
That's the one I was just thinking of.
Yeah, they still have that. That's the one I play in Movie Land as well. You can still change all your airplanes. You can be the bomber or a Spitfire or Mustang.
I was so bad at that game.
I think we all were.
Bad at it too. I would just hit the one. I remember all I know is the left button drops the bomb, so I'd be trying to drop the bombs all the time. So
I've always wondered if there's an end to that game, and has anyone ever reached it?
Don't know.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. Some of these games actually don't have endings, but that's how they got your quarters. I used to love watching when the guys that worked there, they would empty the machines. I don't know why. I found it so fascinating. They empty that thing and it would be heavy with quarters.
Yeah.
And they get those big money bags and they're dumping all you hear in the whole arcade. And I'm like, well, there goes my allowance for the week.
Yeah, and they make a lot of money. And I think I think they may have switched some of the games at Movie Land to a card, but when I was, like I said, as far back as 2020, they were still quarters. So a lot of quarters. That's I don't actually play video games now. I wouldn't even get off the beach if I played Ghost of Tsushima. I'm terrible at it. I don't really understand. I'm a Switch guy. I like the Nintendo stuff because that stuff I find easy. But yeah, I've never played it once. I don't really know how to play video games. I think the last game I played was PlayStation 1 with that skeleton that was jumping over stuff, whatever game that was.
I think it's Medieval.
Yeah, Medieval. That's the last one I played.
Medieval.
Yeah, and I don't have a PlayStation, Sony. I don't have a PlayStation.
Sony? What do you like to play on the Switch?
Volleyball.
Or Nintendo and you said volleyball?
Yeah, I used to like the Wii Sports. That's the one I
the Wii Sports, okay.
Yeah, but now, I don't have a Wii anymore, so I like the sports stuff. That's the kind of stuff I like.
I just remember the Wii they didn't have the straps at first and people were throwing them at the
I used to love the Wii tennis and the Wii bowling and all that stuff.
The whole thing.
That's my speed.
The Wii bowling was that's the one I really liked.
Yeah, I like
except for throwing it at my TV part.
And the boxing,
because I was one of those people.
They had the Wii boxing, dude. Didn't they have Wii boxing?
Oh, Wii boxing!
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was fun. Not when you're drunk though. Not that's so I've heard. Yeah, because
drunk Wii Sports. That's got to be a blast.
Then you're just like, I'm just gonna smack you for real, because then I can really win. So I've heard.
Oh,
why does my Audacity keeps bouncing?
You gotta love when technology doesn't work in your favor. For anyone who doesn't know, I just gotta say that Patrick has been such a great person to talk to and a gentleman. We actually had done an episode prior, but technology wanted to explode. Everything, fell apart and all that stuff. We don't need to get into the details of it, but thank you, Patrick, for giving us some more of your time. I really appreciate it. And also,
I thought it was because you said I have to do it again so I can put co-host down.
Shh, we weren't supposed to talk about that.
Sorry.
I'm going to write you an email the same way I did Epic when they made me mad.
Send it to my non-existent assistant. I told you already.
That's right. No, but it's a pleasure talking to you the first time, so I'm glad we could, happy to do it again.
And a huge shout out to Louis Manalo as well.
Yes, Louis got it.
For bringing us together.
Yeah, he wrote, I think he was a writer on
Ghost Recon Wildlands.
I still have his sunglasses that I liked. He gave me his sunglasses off his head, actually. I really liked them. I still have them.
Oh, wow.
Because I have a really big head. The sunglasses actually were some of the few that fit. So
How come you've never given me some sunglasses, Greg?
We will talk about it later. But do you have anything else that you've collected from like previous acting jobs? I know sometimes some actors get to come back with like a little souvenir or something.
I have my teeth from Master and Commander, because they wanted us to have really bad teeth. Apparently, mine were hard to make because my teeth are pretty well shaped. So I got my bad teeth from that. I've got the scarf from that. Grabbed a piece of rope from that. I have the hat from Night Museum, but they gave me the backup hat, so I only wore that once. I went through all the rigmarole, and I didn't want to go back through it getting the original hat. So I've got the hat. I've got, you keep a little souvenir. You keep a police badge here, a mug here. I've got some stuff from Joe Pickett. What else do I have? A couple things I stole, so I'm not going to tell you what they are.
That is awesome.
Yeah, but I think you like to collect. It's good. It's just good memories. It's good to have something to remember this great job that you were able to be a part of. So yeah, like my Till the hat sitting right up there. Actually.
It's like the collecting trophies.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of nice to look back on some of it, and you look at it and you remember what it was like to be there and how much fun it was. I mean, some of it's a long time ago. I think I still have my like Ken Tanaka school badge from Glee.
Nice. Well, I know you're very busy and you've got things you got to take care of today, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
I got a bit of time.
I do want to ask.
You got a co-host now, so we got to go a little longer. You might have questions too.
The sabotage continues. But I wanted to ask, how did you feel about your duel with Jin in Ghost of Tsushima?
I slipped.
I slipped.
And he got lucky. It's all part of Khotun master plan. I know that if he killed it's a little bit like, in my mind, it's a little bit like an Obi-Wan thing. I'll become more powerful than you've ever known.
and then I say on the bridge you slipped and just pushed him right off the bridge.
Oh, that was on purpose. The fire stuff was all by accident. I was just hot. I was just cold.
Him living, by the way, is a mystery to me. Him living from that fall will always be a mystery for me.
Well, he was highly skilled, I guess.
Yeah, he was.
I think it was into water, but we used to joke because the first character that I burned, his Feo, the great Feodor Chin, his character was named Adachi. So we were on a Twitch once, and I just said we need to make an Adachi Hibachi, but it never came to fruition. Because poor Fedor, he was the one I burnt out the castle too. Fedor got burnt a lot. He's good at burning, screaming. So, but yeah, that was I will just, for the record, Khotun slipped. Otherwise, I would have kicked his ass.
All right, well, you guys heard it. I guess there's no debate. Jin got lucky. Khotun slipped.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful game. I'm really proud to be part of that. Like I said, I'm just not a gamer, so I haven't really played much of it. I do have a lot of. It was kind of funny because I would just get a lot of. I just killed you. I get a lot of messages. I just killed you. I just killed you. I just killed you. I enjoyed killing you. I had a lot of fun killing you. My niece texted me and said, "I just killed you." I'm like, "Great."
Okay.
So much pleasure out of killing me, but
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point to have. Like, you're in a game and your kid gets the game and you're the bad guy and you just happen to walk by as your kid is fighting you, the final boss, and you just watch.
I hate you and I just killed you. I hate you. I just killed you. I'm like, okay, thanks. Love you too.
It's like, yeah, that wasn't awkward at all.
But it's better than, it means I was in the game, so it's better than not being in it. I know we say they enjoy killing the character.
And you're a permanent part of history.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. They did an incredible job. I mean, I've seen people play it. I've watched all the cutscenes. I mean, that's what's so amazing with video games too now is the cutscenes are movies.
Yeah.
I kind of just sometimes go on the YouTube and watch people cut the scenes together in chronological order. And it's like watching a really, really good movie sometimes.
It's amazing how video games nowadays, it's you get to be so immersed into a story versus even 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Just how good the cinematics are.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. and who knows where it's going to go next, with the technology and AI and all of
Some
that.
crazy virtual reality stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just kind of meshing, film, television, video games. It's all sort of becoming some of the same stuff in a lot of ways. So it'll be interesting to see what the future holds. The AI as a consumer, it's really exciting. Someone in the industry, it's a little bit daunting. We're not sure what it's going to do for us.
Yeah.
But like I said, as someone who's a consumer of entertainment, yeah, I sort of see the appeal of what it could do.
I feel like we're going to head into a future where movies are interactive.
Yeah, interactive, and I mean, people put together their own little things on YouTube. I'm a little late to the game on YouTube, but you see some amazing stuff where people they cobble together these movies based on video games that they put together themselves. And,
yeah, there's some pretty extraordinary, like little mini movies that people have made.
It's just hard now because sometimes I can't tell if a trailer is real or not. I didn't think the Tron movie was a real movie because I've seen so many fake trailers on YouTube. Apparently,
remember when IGN got us with that fake Zelda trailer back in the day?
Yes, I remember the Zelda trailer.
That was a long time ago, but it was a good looking. I'm sure it's still on YouTube. Fake Zelda trailer.
Yep, I thought it was real.
Yeah. So, but apparently Tron is a real movie, so I'm looking forward to that because I'm old enough to have seen the original Tron, and boy, was that technology back then. That was pretty cool stuff back then.
Yeah, it's going to be great seeing the positives of where video games are heading, where movies are heading. It's going to be interesting to say the least.
Yeah, it is exciting. Like I said, it's all starting to kind of mesh together. They can bring back deceased actors, which is sort of fascinating, a little bit scary at the same time.
Yeah,
especially the Star Wars stuff. They bring back Peter Cushing, and it's hard to tell that it's not real sometimes.
Yeah, that it's fascinating, like as the consumer, but I wonder how the actors would feel if they knew, like how would you be okay with that?
In 30 years when I'm gone, as long as they pay my family, I'm fine with it.
That's the thing, is like the legal aspects of it is where the challenge is.
Yeah, and it's not really your performance, so that's what you're wondering about. But who knows what I ask? But it's never really fully our performance anyway. A lot of it is the editors. The editors never get enough credit for what they see from actors on screen. I've always been surprised that actors don't thank the editors more when they win awards because they're the ones that put together the performance. They pick which take they're going to put together. So, I've watched stuff going, oh, that's interesting. That was from take 3 that they threw in here and added it, which made it really interesting moment. So shout out to the editors because they can make us look really good.
Yeah, and like when we were talking about, with performance capture, that's a very valid point because, you're walking around not an actual costume, you're suited up, you've got your camera, but the editors, the VFX and everyone, they make it come to life.
Yeah, it's funny too because you're carrying around this like foam light sword and you see it and you're like, wow, they made that kick-ass axe. But the video game stuff is what they can do is incredible as well. I imagine that's why it takes so long to do it.
So my final question, and probably the most important one of the entire episode, Patrick, do you think Daniel's got a chance in acting?
Everybody's got a chance in acting. I think we talked about it last time. It's not like the nice thing is it's not like a job where you need to have years of experience to learn this to go to the next level. It's not like you need to learn this. I'm assuming when you're in the Navy, you had to learn this machine or whatever. So I'm showing my inexperience or my lack of knowledge. But this machine to work on that machine, to work on that system, to work on that system. You can just start anywhere. Acting, it's oversimplified, but I kind of bring it a little bit down to just know yourself and show yourself. Really, it's just about conquering your fear and finding your truth. There's no right way to do anything. There's your way to do it. I know a lot. Everybody I ever compete against, not even competes out very well, but anybody I'm auditioning against for a job, if I get that job, I'm not a better actor than those guys are. I know I'm just right for that role, So it's never about the right way to do it. It's about finding truth because I had a great teacher, Joe Police, who I've never forgotten this. He said it's a little bit like magic. You get all these people together that go put this movie together. They do their performances, and then 2 years later, they project it on light onto a wall, and it makes you feel emotion. And like that is pretty magical, you know. And it's about finding human truths. That's the part I enjoy about it is exploring the human experience. That's why it's so much fun to play bad guys because I consider myself a pretty good human being. But you know, we all have a dark side, and you get to safely
It's
explore it.
explored.
Wonderful, wonderful way to look at it.
Yeah, you know, and that's part of the fun of it is it's a little scary because sometimes you're like, okay, I'm gonna need to show what's in my deep dark psyche here because this is what my instincts are to play this character, but that's also exciting as well, you know. And I think that and anybody can do it, you know. I think I can't remember his name. We talked about this last time. He was the colonel that killed himself in A Few Good Men. I think it was J.T. Walsh, I think was his name. I think I read somewhere that he didn't start acting until he was 50.
Mm.
You know, the great thing is there's always going to be a part for you, you know. It's not like that's all 20-year-olds. When you're 20, you're going to play 20-year-old parts. When you're 30, you're going to play 30-year-olds. When you're 40, you're going to play 40-year-olds. You know, I sort of look at it this way. I played a lot of cops, but that's sort of the arc of the career is when I was started out playing uniform cops. Then I got older, I played detectives. Then I got older, I played captains. And now you're playing like former cops, you know, because I'm in my 50s.
And making rank as you get older.
Yeah, but the roles are always still there.
Yeah.
So, you know, you just gotta, I say follow the dream, you know. Anybody who says there's an actor is as much of an actor as I am, I believe. It's not about how much you've worked. It's about deciding that's what you want to do. I mean, it's a tough profession. There's a lot of luck involved. You know, there's ebbs and flows, but you just got to trust yourself. I'll tell you the one thing. Everybody that I talked to some friends who teach, and the last thing I ask the kids is, you know, who's your favorite actor? None of them ever say me for some reason. Don't say really famous people like, you know, Sean Penn or Robert De Niro. And I'll say, you know, what you need to know is every single one of them started where you were. They, at some point, everybody you wanted to be didn't have a job. They just believed that they could get it. Now, there's no guarantee that that belief is going to get you a job, but I can guarantee you that if you don't believe it, don't pursue it, you won't get a job. You know, 80% of this is in my mind is, you know, confidence in yourself and belief in yourself. You know, is what talent is. Talent, I think, is a lot of that is conquering your fear. You know, so that's just my little take on it. So if you want to do it, you know, if you want to stop being a co-host and relegated to co-host and you want to go out and be an actor,
He likes to pick on me because I'm doing a bunch of recordings this week. I'm finally submitting a bunch of recordings this week for audiobooks that I wanted to do.
You should do it. I mean, you guys both
have
great voices, you know, and the voice work is hard to do. I mean, there's a lot of competition, but yeah, you could easily do that. I don't really like audiobooks because I don't have the patience. My diction starts to go. It does after 3 hours. But yeah, you can I say go for it. You know, take as much training as you can. This is great training for voice work, but take classes. Just follow the dream, man. You know,
I just like to have fun.
That's key to everything. Otherwise, what the hell's the point? You know,
if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, and it helps because, you know, so much of a life, like, you know, I'm just cleaning the apartment and reorganizing. That's not fun, but, you know, the fact that I get to do fun stuff for a living, you know, helps motivate a little bit when you're doing God, I have to get underneath that and sweep up the dust kind of stuff. So, yeah,
well, you heard him, Daniel. You have no excuses anymore. I need you to act like you like being co-host. Get started there.
Study. At least he gave you a capital C, though.
He did.
Yes, actually, got a capital C.
Used to be a lowercase C.
Really? So you're moving up.
Yeah.
Little by little. Eventually, I'll capitalize the whole thing for you.
I'm the backbone of this business for grammatical errors. Fixing them.
Yeah.
But Patrick, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. It's been great talking to you. I would love to have you back in the future.
Anytime. Yeah, anytime.
So yeah, and
go play the Assassin's Creed. It's a hell of a game.
Yes, Assassin's Creed Shadows, an amazing game, getting rave
I
reviews.
may or may not get killed again.
Oh my goodness.
So,
But thank you guys, everybody who's been tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and join the GZ Chop Shop podcast community. And let us know who else we should probably have on
where did
the
that name come
podcast.
from?
GZ Chop Shop?
Does Daniel spell Daniel with a Z, or do you spell Daniel with a Z?
No, so the GZ Chop Shop it actually started like way back in 2015. Originally it was just Gamma Games.
I have no idea what those are. That's all.
Nope.
Made up words,
Yeah.
basically.
So
That sounded nice.
It sounded nice, and then back in 2015, things were different. Then like everyone on
Gamma
YouTube,
Games. Okay, got it. Okay, yeah.
Gamma Games, yeah. And back then, everyone was having like these crazy titles on YouTube or Twitch or whatever. And my buddy was like, "Yeah, we need a name and put games there." And I was like, "Gamma," because our color theme was like green, and I was like reading the Hulk at the time, and I was like, Gamma Games," and they're like, "All right, cool, we'll go with that."
What's
And then,
though?
well, yeah, because we spelled games with a Z. We took the S out and replaced it with a Z.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's like a little edgy thing that
cool.
just.
But as a Canadian, I will have to say it's also GZ Games, GZ Chop Shop. That
Okay.
because Canadians still say Z.
Z.
We can still change the logo.
Yes. Yeah. At some point, I know the logo is going to change again.
No, that's cool. I was just curious where I like that. So games,
yeah, a little tidbit of a. I don't even think we ever
Z.
talked about it on the show.
No, we haven't.
Oh well, I don't. Yeah, there you have it, guys. Now you know.
And the Chop Shop is
because we were talking about so many topics and then we broke it down. And when you think Chop Shop, a lot of people think like cars, and you go to Chop Shop, the cars getting broken down.
Yeah, so, I was thinking like, okay, I like it.
Yeah,
I learned something new.
Yeah. See, guys, look at that. See, thanks to Patrick, you guys all learned the origin of our name, and now the questions will be rolling in, I'm sure. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, thank you, Patrick.
No problem.
But guys, visit the website, gzchopshoppodcast.com, where you can get every episode of our podcast all in one nifty little place, and join the newsletter, the Press Play newsletter. You can find that link on our site as well. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Anyway, take care of yourself.
GZ.
Take care of yourself and each other.
I'm going to run with that one.
And we'll catch all you wonderful people on the next podcast. Later.